To stream. There we go. We're both on the same screen at the same time, and hopefully this all really works. And the microphones work, and it'd be so cool, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, it'd be great.
Oh, you're loud and clear.
Yeah, I'm running through the board over here.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's necessarily anything to do with the board. Just our technology is working. You pay for things that work, it finally happens.
That was a good internet connection. Yeah.
Well, we pay enough for it. It better be. I mean, hell. Okay, everybody. Welcome to the Big in the USA podcast. I am Sassly Biggins with my husband, Bill Bourbon. Yeah, I always do that fake hic at the end. I just can't help myself. But today's topic, from things that are bothering the world more than ever, the thing that was trending on Twitter, and everyone's worried about stay-at-home females. Some compare it to slavery. Is it? Isn't it? Let us discuss. If you have any comments, I'm told they will show up. So hopefully it really works.
All right, and I'll be monitoring the comments over here as best I can.
I'll be monitoring too. I got eyes. They work.
Okay.
But yes, traditional wife. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they setting women's freedom back hundreds of years?
Can I start with something?
Sure.
My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Now, I'm not really sure.
Mine?
I'm not really sure if this was out of necessity, because I understand she had a job before she married my dad. She never bothered after my family moved to Jackson, Tennessee. What was it? Yeah, mom didn't work at all after that. She stayed at home. And I got to preface everything when I talk about my mom that she was mentally ill, but me and my little brother, we never spent one day in daycare. We never had a babysitter. And she was always...
She was the more functioning type of mentally ill.
Right. I mean, the house was clean. We always had something to eat. We never really did without. We didn't have the best, but we didn't do without.
Yeah, my mom, she left the public school system to be a stay-at-home mom because she got tired of being in an environment where children would use craft supplies as weapons. Think about it. X-Acto knives. Clay cutters are nothing more than two sticks with a wire in the middle that works as a very nice garrote.
For the record, what grade level did she teach?
Middle school.
Middle school.
Okay. We're talking like middle school to like freshman high school.
When they start to be problem children. Okay.
Basically.
All right.
But when she got her arts degree for teaching, there was like no teaching jobs where you had to practically be related to someone just to get one. So when she finally got one, she's like, yeah, I'm here. I'm going to stay. This was in Trenton, New Jersey, where they're kind of known for their crime and ghetto. And she kept on saying the little banditos were trying to carve their initials into the nice little cute Korean kids who behave themselves. And she said it just wasn't worth the stress. Now, she and my dad had been married. It had been a couple of years. They really wanted to start a family. So that's what she did. And they found the cheapest house that they could afford, where the only safe place to stand, according to her, was the kitchen floor. Everything else had been trashed between dog pee, rats, and this house had been previously owned by the mafia. So they spent the next 15 years fixing it up, and we made it home. And I have 5 sisters.
Well, we didn't live in the best of accommodations. We were basically living in a house that was practically in the middle of the city of Jackson that was that ran down eventually after dad moved out. I'd already moved out. I'd been gone for about a year, and somebody came in and burned the house down, before they had a chance to sell it. But, side note, sorry.
But yeah, traditional stay at home. Like your mom kind of had to be at home because she truly, I don't think she would have done very well in any environment if she was truly in decline.
I also believe my mom was fairly agoraphobic and quite paranoid, because she always sat at watching something out of a window. She watched TV in the living room, but she always sat by that window to see what was going on. So
That's any mom. That's
yeah.
when they say moms have eyes in the backs of their heads. That's not a joke. That's practically scientific fact.
Yeah.
I mean, I had it for a while. Like since I was the oldest, I was like the third parent, and because of how much work there was, it felt like I was a single parent. Sometimes it was just us on end alone together. You know, doing housework and cleaning, cooking nonstop. You know, but yes, is female freedom harmed by this traditional hashtag trad wife lifestyle?
I haven't met a stay-at-home mom who didn't enjoy being with her kids.
Well, I have like there's
Outside,
always
well, let me clarify that. Outside of certain religious contexts, yeah, I've heard about the fundamentalist Christians and the ones who abuse their wives and so forth. But no, there is nobody that I know who volunteered, gave up their career, gave up their life to stay at home with their kids and stay at home to take care of their husbands or whatever you want to call it. They were in charge of. They were mastered that household, and they were very proud of what their work and they were very proud of what they've done.
well, the only thing that I would ever say is a true drawback is like you always see those murder mystery things where like everyone was in denial over how severely depressed a wife was and she had too many kids too fast and that does unregulate your hormones. She goes and drowns everybody in the bathtub. It's only in those kind of situations it's like
Isn't that like postpartum depression gone untreated?
yes,
Okay.
we're talking extremely medical.
Yeah.
It's only in those situations where yeah, maybe you should have cut back a little on the Becky Homeki, do whatever God says mindset of if you can't find your own mental health, that is a drawback no matter who you are in any situation. But people usually forget the part you can still be depressed and still have a job. It just doesn't matter where it is.
Well, you know, some women actually want to work at home. That's fine too. That's an option these days. I'm
Well,
glad it
they
is.
always make it sound like you're strapped to a stove, barefoot, pregnant with a baby on your hip. It's like, no, that's not what it is. Or the people who are claiming this are going to be like eternally single, don't have long term relationships with anyone but their dog or their cat or emotional support animal. And they're never going to have kids. Well, if they do, it's going to be by accident. It's not going to be on purpose. And they're the ones that think that they can dictate to the rest of the world how to live.
Yeah, I know, but you know, what can you say? The only thing I really have to say is that everybody in their individual circumstances, every family in their individual circumstances knows what they can and can't tolerate at this point. And there's being a stay-at-home mom. Yeah, being a stay-at-home mom does not necessarily mean you are attached to that house. If you're there willingly and freely, then I see no problem with it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we need more stay-at-home moms. There are kids out here running amok. There are kids out here. It's been that way since I was a kid, and even longer. There are kids out here with no supervision, and it's because either both parents work, or they're in a single-parent household, or they're being raised by other people.
Yeah,
There's
then you have
something
the
to be said
government
for
raising
traditional
kids,
family.
and government's not known for raising the best children. Just look at public schools.
Right. And the public schools is a whole other episode. Don't get me started.
My mom had us scared to death of public school. Well, not really the schools, but the kids that came out of them, because it's like, don't learn any bad habits from them that I'm going to have to break you of. Gee, great. Thanks, Ma.
Well, there's also something to be said for proper and good child rearing. So, you know, we can teach our kids to be stronger adults. And I have no dog in that fight since we don't have kids, you know.
I know we're not having kids, but we have cats. But no, like, because I am the oldest of 6 kids, I've already mothered enough people for enough years of my life. I'm not going back to 20 plus years of boot camp. Basically, is what it was as far as how much work there was, responsibility, you know, making sure like I literally and basically inherited my youngest sister. Whether it's bottle feeding, staying up all night with her, sick days, good days, laundry, food, repeat. Been there, done back. Been there, done that, not going back. I accept Christmas cards, but I refuse to live there.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
This is beyond just having the t-shirt.
We have a tendency to be introverts, so it just doesn't necessarily work with that type of large family dynamic. And I've seen it get chaotic.
To adapt.
I've seen large family dynamics get chaotic too, but that's another
chaotic. They're out like, what was it? I used to.
I'm being nice.
Oh, I know you are. It's like, was it they're habitual? They're, what was it? There's a lot of expressions I used to have for it, but basically it's just Tasmanian devil tsunamis all the time. Just the constant cyclone of loud noise, overload, just the busyness that just turns into white noise for me, to where I either have to have it really, really quiet or I need it pandemonium. Chaotic chaos. Because
can you elaborate a little further on that? Because I just can't handle the chaos at all.
Go to a rave. Just think how loud, busy, noisy a rave is of everything all the time. And it's like the eye of the storm. I am perfectly fine and I ignore it 100%. But then that's equal to being in a room by yourself that's like padded for sound.
So you've learned how to tune it out.
Completely.
Okay. Now I got you.
Yeah, it's your own bubble.
Right.
Nothing can touch you. Nothing gets in. Nothing gets out. If they want to talk to you, they're going to have to really get in your face. Otherwise, you don't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
You live in your own head.
And in case you're wondering what I'm doing over here, I'm eyeballing some articles about trad wives, and I don't really want to read them because they're actually kind of trashing this whole idea.
Well, that's all they ever do. The people who speak out against it only trash it.
I mean, we're talking
they don't analyze it.
The Guardian.
Yeah, it's all left-leaning.
Australian Broadcasting Company, KatieCouric.com. Really? Katie Couric? Really?
She could have been a stay-at-home mom.
And there's one on womaninhome.com, and I'm just like, whatever,
Well, that's why that one girl on Twitter she was a mother from England, got trashed on Twitter for saying nice stuff about it, because basically people were dissing her lifestyle.
And what did they say? What did they say specifically that was trashing that they said?
Well, basically it goes back to the more political sense of it's somehow downgrading to women. It's it goes back to the very false ideology that women are slaves of their husbands, or she used the term where you could either pick a boss at a crappy retail job or pick your husband as your boss in the house. That somehow men are more dominant to women, and it's reversing. It goes back to, how long it took for us to get the right to vote, blah, blah, blah. It's we're not taking away your right to vote. You're reminding yourselves that you have the right to not be crazy.
No, I'll go even further and say you have an obligation to your family and children first.
Well, if you do have them, yes, you have an obligation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you also have the right to not have them, but it goes back to that study in Sweden, I want to say, where they tried to push women into more career-based, or in the sciences, which would mean they'd have to have a career after building all their time and everything. But what they forgot was women preferred the more nurturing jobs, the ones that paid less.
Where was this research at? Because where was this?
Jordan Peterson had it. It was a few years old. Because, if you look up anything on the wage gap, if you find any real true economists, they will show you that women usually pick the lesser paying jobs because it's the one like teachers, caregiver roles, not engineers, not doctors.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Dr. Peterson also said that women were more geared toward those types of roles. And I believe
exactly. I said they wanted them more.
Yeah.
It's no different than if you gave them like 5 choices, which ones would they statistically more likely choose? They always pick the ones that paid less, were more care based, they were less scientific. I mean, no one's judging that women can or can't do math. It's just they don't want to be software engineers most of the time, which require actually using the math. They'd rather do home ec, which is a wholly different type of math altogether. But they don't see it as intelligent enough, or it's like you're saying women are stupid if you don't give them the better jobs. But then people are still saying that being a mother is somehow a worse job. It's like, well, it just kind of supports humanity directly. Or like not that long ago, I posted that thing about how men might be able to design and build bridges, but women are the only ones making more men.
Right.
And
I can't really,
totally missing the concept.
I really can't refute that. I'm looking up.
It truly is the disintegration of society. The actual physical, less population, more disintegration of actual society.
Okay. I think I found it. Sweden. New research on the gender pay gap. And this is from 2015, actually.
Well, it's another hot button topic that's been around more recently.
You know, they say here that it's catching up with men. Gap not affected by any type of collective agreement. Men's work is is valued more highly. That's one of the things they say.
They need it. The way it should be worded is men take higher paying jobs, because you're not going to pay a daycare worker the same way you're going to pay a doctor. That's the gap, because women have more preferences for those types of jobs, while men have the tendency of being doctors, engineers, lawyers, etc., etc.
Right.
Because let's say women really do get paid less, which is also the same logic that people put out, is that, okay, if someone you know is going to be paid less, people would only want to hire women because they know that they'd have to pay less. But that's not the case, because if you only compared like a software engineer to another software engineer and ignored male or female, you'd truly evaluate their worth. Let's say they had basically the same competencies. Then if you compared male to female, women ended up being paid more.
So you're talking like, say we got 2 engineers, right?
Two software engineers, same exact company, same age of company, everything.
So what you're saying is that, you know, in if we line it up, that, and this is where I'm trying to demonstrate that the statistics may be just a little bit skewed when you talk about the pay gap as far as what you just said.
They're very skewed. I'm saying there's a huge gap that they're not explaining correctly.
Right.
You can't compare doctors to daycare workers. You can't compare stay-at-home moms to CEOs. It's not, it doesn't work. The math is wrong. The verbiage is wrong. The presentation is morally reprehensible from a mathematical standpoint.
Yeah, pardon me while I look at some resource. I'm trying to find some resources here that I can actually quote.
Well, there's only a couple of I know Milo had one female economist who would say in public, the math is wrong. Here's why they're skewing the verbiage for their political agenda.
Yeah.
Because if you remove women from wanting to have children, you can limit population growth. And if you limit population growth, you're literally shrinking society. And then the rich people will always be the rich people. And if you're only shrinking the poor people population, what are you really doing?
Right.
The 1% wants to be the 5% just through population limitation.
But let me ask you this. If somebody came and told you, hey, you can't be an engineer because you're a woman, what's your response to that be?
I'd laugh. We live in America. That's not true. And I was like, go tell that to a hardcore feminist who would beat you in the head for saying that. I mean, I just laugh at it.
Well, or tell that to the actual women engineers.
Yeah, it's like, let me go find you some.
I know they do exist. I've seen them. They a lot of them live in Huntsville.
That lady I used to pick up every single afternoon, she was a software engineer
Yeah,
from India. She had a double master's degree.
right. So, it's not a matter of putting in the work, I guess. If you put in the work.
All this exists. I mean, it's never in debate that women can do whatever they want. They have women astronauts. They have women CEOs. Women do exist in those places. Granted, it's not as often,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, they're not limited. There's another argument I always have. Okay, in the stock market, it is mostly men on the trading floor, correct?
Right.
Now, if you go to human psychology, the old saying that the man might be the head of the house, but the woman is the neck because she can turn the head any way she wants.
Yep.
If women are so dang good at male manipulation, because we are, or traditionally are known to be so, especially in our modern day, why aren't there more women actively trading, either one in the stock market or on the floor? Because they're so good at watching male trends, I guess you could say, because men are, especially in the stock market, when one gets scared, they all get scared, and they have proven psychologically that women traders do better in the long term because they don't freak out as much. So why aren't women choosing to have more active roles, like in the stock market world, which is all numbers, hardcore, busy places? Because they want to go pick up their kid from school at 3:00. They don't mind being, data people. They don't mind being on the outskirts.
Well,
they just don't want, that stress. They're smarter that way.
I will say this. I will say this, and I heard a podcast. It was one of the Rich Dad podcasts that Kim Kiyosaki hosted with these female real estate investors, and they have a whole thing here. The real estate invest HER, invest HER, just in case you're wondering how that is.
So they didn't have kids, and they had a perfectly good life.
They really did talk about that. Why aren't more women getting into real estate investing or investing in general? Because they do have the capability, and they're better at it. They're better at the research. That's something I do believe.
They said they usually take a longer position, which means they're not for a quick flip, and they get higher returns on investment because of it, according to research.
Right. And this whole thing, they let's see, what do they got here? Bear with me, folks. They provide an intimate global platform where women cultivate deeper connections while creating generational wealth. So that's their whole purpose, to create to be able to empower women to create generational wealth. Wealth gap is that's a whole other episode entirely. But there's so many people who so many women that just take a side role, let their husbands handle that one, because they don't think that maybe they're strong enough or powerful enough or intelligent enough to do it.
I don't know why.
I'll tell you, I can show
women at their home aren't powerful. You control every single other member of the household.
Right.
I mean, it sounds jokey when I say it, but I literally had the weight of 7 other people on my shoulders.
Every time the critics bring this stuff up, they always paint it in some type of caricature, and it's not like that.
Well, they always misrepresent it to where, even though I was just like the oldest kid or substitute mother, whatever you want to call it, even I wanted my work to be appreciated. It didn't have to be overly paid or whatever. It's just my efforts would have been nice if they said good job. That's all that had to go on. And that's what most women only look for. I mean, there's all the jokes about how kids undervalue mom on Mother's Day, which is also around.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's like, why? Sorry. Passing air. basically, if you can break up the nuclear family of any kind, the government can insert itself more into the home, and women won't want to go into a place where they won't be valued, allegedly. But then the only ones spreading that gossip or ideology are the ones that'll never get married, never have kids, and think that aborting babies is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well, feminism was created as a way to allow ugly people to have equal footing.
What?
I'm joking. God damn.
That didn't even make logical sense.
No,
That's like saying ugly people can't vote. That doesn't make sense.
Me trying to quote Rush Limbaugh. I'll find the quote.
No, women just wanted equal footing in the political things that truly have swing over their lives.
Hold on, we got it. Feminism was established to allow unattractive women easier access to the mainstream.
If they change that to political control of their lives, I would agree to that. But
that's probably what he meant by it. But yeah,
unless it's more specific, then I won't agree with it.
Okay, I don't agree with everything Rush Limbaugh says, but I'm just going to tell you that's not a serious quote. Nobody ever understood his sense of humor, and
I'm hoping he's funny because, as much as I always find it weird that the more a woman is independent, the uglier she becomes. It's like that's not a direct relationship there. They're not mutually exclusive.
No.
And calling someone ugly is just an ugly thing to do. So It's all based on opinion. I mean, yeah, I know they've tried to measure what makes things beautiful or more beautiful or less beautiful, but it still does not rule out jackass.
A woman is like a tea bag. You can't tell how strong she is until you put her in hot water.
Yeah, then run. Or that other scripture that goes about it's better to be in the crook of a roof than in the house with a contentious woman.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time thinking about roofs as a child. Or barns or back 40 or, places that were far, far away and you'd need a helicopter to find me.
A helicopter.
Hey, the mountains, unless you have heliovac, you have to walk out of there of your own volition.
Well, what have we done? I don't know. Have we done everything we can to inspire women to be more?
Every time I believe that, like when I was cashiering, there were some kids I knew from driver's ed because there's a really small place. There's no way you didn't see each other eventually as the years went on. These are girls who could have gone to college, done all these things, but because they were still in love with their high school boyfriend, one of them didn't even bother getting a driver's license. But that also harkened to where we live. There's a lot of old ideas that just didn't leave, and her parents were very similar to how she chose to live her life. Never bothered to get a driver's license.
Oh no, there's your clue right there. She was part of that. She was part of that. Well, that influenced her decision making.
Her husband had to take her food shopping. She ended up with 3 boys very quickly after they got married. They lived off of his consistently inconsistent income. I don't remember whether or not it was a good job because I can't remember if she was or wasn't one of the people that always had WIC and food stamps and whatever else. I don't think she used it all the time, or it was very minimal, if I remember. Or she only got WIC, but not food stamps.
Well, that says a lot about her picking a loser who can't consistently provide.
No, everyone in New Hampshire had like 3 jobs.
No, I'm going to tell you something. As a man, that means a lot to me. If I'm able to provide, then I want to be able to provide, and that means something, and that is a very core of a married man's existence.
Well, people in New Hampshire don't care that much about back in the 60s, because I thought this was a joke when I first heard it, that Liberals moved to New Hampshire in order to turn it blue instead of red in the live free or die state. It was true. So they did go from independent and poor to poor and on government assistance. And so basically, government assistant people were breeding more government assistance people.
Yeah, I've noticed the wealth gap in New Hampshire. Traveling.
Yeah, like most of the houses are owned by people who have like this. It's like their third vacation home.
Yeah.
While the rest of the people who actually live there pay rent to some little shanty somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, it's huge. We're just talking. There's a lot of poor and there's a lot of rich and there's not a lot of in between.
So a note to the libertarians out there who are still eyeballing New Hampshire as a free state project.
Oh no, they think they're actively winning. If you check Twitter, they think that they're winning.
I don't think they're winning.
They think they are.
I don't think they're winning at all.
I don't think they're winning either, and I live there, so
yeah,
I didn't even know that they were there until I moved to Texas. And I lived in New Hampshire. Based on Twitter, their opposition, I forget who it was. I found them on Twitter. They posted a local restaurant up there, and it's like, oh, I live like 10 minutes from there when I was up there. And I'm like, that's all that they're doing is meeting at a restaurant?
You're going to have to try harder, libertarians. Okay.
I said,
back to the
I know there's a lot of mountains in between, but if they even picked one giant, well, not giant, the biggest cities of the state, and we still don't know that you're there based on people, banners, or advertising, that's not my fault. You had 12 years to figure it out, and you didn't do it.
Yep.
But like I said, getting back to every time I think it's a matter of encouraging women about and keeping them informed about their opportunities. No, because you have girls like her who just straight out of high school, get married, have kids while she's still young, and lives the quietest existence on earth.
And she's a product of her environment because that's what she chose. She didn't choose to see what was out there in the rest of the world. I'll tell everybody, men, women alike, go out there and see something. Don't just settle. Now, if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, okay, great.
A lot of the so-called stay-at-home moms in New Hampshire end up being single parents.
I'm just saying that the argument's invalid. Nobody's forcing these women to be stay-at-home moms. A lot of them are choosing it. Okay, and if you choose it, there's absolutely
the only time I agree with them choosing it. Like, I do agree that sometimes things happen, people become single parents, blah blah blah. However, if they're choosing to support a man who has a really good job, provides more than adequately for the family, why wouldn't they jump at that opportunity versus having a boyfriend for like 20 years and keeping some crap job at a shoe store that physically degrades your body and your boss is a jerk? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you pick the winner over the sucky life?
Why do some people stay in abusive relationships? It's the same reason.
They don't know they can leave. Or they don't think there's anything better out there for them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's all they've ever known. Nobody's ever shown them any better.
So, as much as I would like to believe it's about knowledge, no, that's a bigger calculation. It really is.
Well, like I said before, I'm in support of more stay-at-home moms.
I'm for more stay-at-home people that are self-sustaining versus codependent government leeches.
Well, you don't think that that's the number one cause of it, stay-at-home moms being, No.
When they say stay-at-home moms, they usually mean people who are married. If you're stay-at-home mom and a single parent, that's just government baby right there. You are a product of the nanny system, the government nanny system. And they do exist. But the question is, who exists more? Those who just get knocked up for the sake of getting knocked up, or those who actually parent their children with another person?
That's a hot topic because there's an entire class of people who believe that that doesn't exist. That women are getting knocked up just for the sake of getting more government benefits.
I do
And
know
I
of one person who outright said it, but she wanted more money from the government to go gambling in Massachusetts. I won't say her name, but the whole town knew who
Well,
she was.
give her credit for honesty, but it's one of those things. What can I, because once you get locked into that system, and you become dependent on it, it's really hard to break out of it. A lot of
I
it's
don't
meant.
think she was okay. I do know of like 2 or 3 families who had hard times. It was the wife, not the wife. The mother was in like a father had died, or there was a divorce or something where the dad ran off, whatever it was. For a short time, they had to be on government assistance, and they got off it as fast as they could. They do exist, but not as often as those who get on, stay on, and make more people who repeat the process.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone to say, "Oh, you're just blame shifting whole people." It's like, no, everything's different. It's very individualistic, but at the same time, was it 40% of the population pays for 60% of the population? And that's an old statistic. So who knows? It could be worse by now.
I don't know, but we'll get those statistics later.
No, this was going around like when I was still back in New Hampshire, because something my mother would always say. For a lady who has to stay home for medical reasons, she shouldn't wander the internet as much as she does.
Okay, she needs to stay off the right wing conspiracy websites first of all. I don't mean to.
Oh no! She was looking at the economic stuff. She's a big fan of how are they spending my taxes.
And that's a good question. We should hold our politicians accountable to how they spend their tax money.
I agree. We should hold politicians responsible versus trying to find every single poor person out there and trying to make them feel guilty for being poor.
Yeah.
It's like, Ma, I know you're trying, but just because you give them dirty looks at the food store doesn't improve anything.
Yeah. Totally understand that one.
Because in New Hampshire, you'd be glaring at 50% of the people who need to go food shopping. But I did learn a lot. Well, when you're a cashier up there, where it is such yin yang as far as wealth and poverty goes, you knew who paid how. And when you start to learn psychologically who pays what and how, and it really forms a solid opinion of the world. Like I said, I knew the people who got off.
I used to hear this living in the Midwest. Don't go to Walmart the first of the month. Well, I made that mistake. I was in Rockford, Illinois. Happened to be at Walmart at the first of the month.
Yeah, I worked at Walmart too.
Yeah.
Or don't work in the sporting goods department.
I didn't know the state of Illinois issued that much in assistance because they had 3 carts worth of groceries, 700. I just midnight, right after midnight.
The only part that ever really galled me, like, I know I'm fat for anyone who's watching, but we grew up like with the healthiest homegrown food, and my lymphedema still made me look like this. So I would judge what was in their carts because I had to bring it up because I was the cashier. And I just saw all junk food and things that made them sicker, fatter, or just, it's like, what are they doing? It's like, they're just fillers.
And it's cheap.
It was just cheap junk in bulk. And it's like, they always say that life is a never ending education. And all I could see was a room full of stupid people.
Right.
I mean, I know I say the word stupid probably way too much, but it's one of the best descriptions to explain so many things without using worse vocabulary words.
Right.
That are just as accurate. And the only other time because I don't know how or why, but the 3 or 4 cashiers all at the same time, there's this one big mouth dude. We all knew him. He never had a job. We felt so sorry for his wife and his one kid. And it was near Father's Day and lobster was on sale, and he used food stamps to buy lobster. cooked lobster, freshly steamed in store. He's one of those people you just say yes, please, and thank you, and hope to God he leaves sooner than later.
Well, what I used to see in Alabama a lot is, all these gas stations that would sell chicken,
Mm.
fried chicken.
Love that stuff.
They would.
Bad for you, but
I don't know. It made me question the EBT program in general, but
oh yeah, gas stations take EBT for like 90% of their products now.
yeah, and that's fine if it's a staple product or whatever. But
No,
they
it's
were
usually
saying
sodas and
buy the
chips.
chicken, and what they were saying was that you buy the chicken, we'll fry it for free. If you buy it in bulk, then they'll fry it for free.
Well, that's the different thing. Okay, when I was still cashiering, I had a shift lead. He was another infomaniac, especially in New Hampshire, because the only tax that they have is restaurant tax. And he was working at a convenience store before, previously, whatever. If you warm up the chicken, even if it's just in a microwave, that's considered restaurant food. But if you don't do anything to it, it's considered regular food and is not taxed.
Right.
So if that tax is what classifies whether or not you can or cannot use it for EBT.
Mm-hmm. By the way,
Silly,
that restaurant
stupid,
tax
but true.
in Hampshire is 1%.
But it's the only one. They still ship people up from Boston to go shopping at the outlet malls. Big old Greyhound buses.
Heck yeah, that one in Tilton is really great. If you ever get up there.
The Bass shoe store is wonderful. I may not care for the employees, but the shoes are wonderful.
Yeah, no, I own 4 pair.
Hey, you dressed like you're homeless long enough. We had to put an end to it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't wear those shoes enough. But,
well, they support your feet different.
Yeah.
They feel good.
No, those dress shoes I got, they have some very specific supports in them, so I don't get fatigued wearing dress shoes when I need them. So.
Yeah. But yeah, just how can I word this delicately? A lot of blue-haired people are pissed off that they can't convince other people to join their ranks in the child-free world of trying to word this nicely. Individualism. In the world of individualism. They want more individuals, less families, and destroying women is the best way to insert more government. No matter what women think about themselves. It's a psyop.
What you're saying is that by breaking down the family unit, it allows for government control to come in because the government can raise your children better than we can as individuals. And I have a problem with that, okay?
Yes. And the only people screaming it, like I said, are more left-leaning. Everything goes back to the politics of it because it's like this giant psyop of neuro-linguistic programming of society. If you get enough crazy people screaming the same message, you can have giant change because if you hear something often enough, you start to believe it.
Right.
Versus my eyes still work. I know when I'm happy. I know when I'm sad. And no amount of screaming is going to change that no matter what, whether it's, even if you got YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, every single site in the world have the same message and just have it blasted constantly. I still know what I know. It's not going to change. And it takes a rather strong person nowadays to say that.
Right.
Or to say no to the for anyone who does not know, neuro-linguistic programming is when you use repetitive messages to brainwash people to your way of thinking over a set period of time. It could be a few months, it could be years. It's about slowly moving the goalpost 1 centimeter at a time to the point where you don't know the goalposts are moving, and when it's done, only lesbian and gay dudes are having kids with in vitro fertilization and the government's raising them. I know it's an odd thing, but I saw this movie once and it was like a fake world where literally gay got all the men only married men, all the women only married women, and the only time they had children was with in vitro fertilization because they didn't actually want to touch each other because you'd have to have a male and a female still to have a child.
Right.
It's like if that's their goal for the future, that sucks. And I have the right to be straight. Do not infringe upon my rights for whatever the heck I feel like. If I have to respect 3 million different genders, you can respect my decision to only be one of my choosing.
Yeah, we're still cisgendered. I love that term because I love making
It
fun of it.
sounds like a cancer.
It does, don't it? It sounds like it's a cancer and a pox upon society, and we're not. We're straight men and women out here. That's what
I mean, I shouldn't be too upset, even though I am, because technically my sign is Cancer, because I am a Cancer. I was born in June.
Right.
But no thanks. Move on. Grow up. Get the F out of my face. Society can go screw itself. God bless. I'm going to go be happy. No one's allowed to F with my version of happy. Because if they do, I'll come up swinging.
Right.
Because if you ain't happy, what is you? You are self-harming. And if you self-harm, that is crazy. And if they can prove you are that kind of crazy, self-harming gets you into the crazy house where you may not be allowed out. Well, it's true. Whenever they have to admit people to insane asylums and stuff, they always ask, are they a harm to themselves or others? If the answer is yes, you ain't going anywhere for at least 24 hours.
Oh. 72, actually. I think there's a 72-hour hold in this state.
Or 72, whichever one it is. Yeah.
I know that a doctor.
You have to be able to measure you're kind of crazy.
I know that a doctor can sign you in for a certain amount of time, then you have to go to court. So
maybe that's after the 72 hours. Yeah.
Yep.
So no one's allowed to F with happy.
And if somebody can correct me on that, then let me know, because I've pretty much lost touch with that world.
Is it kind of nice to have lost touch with that world?
Yes. The only thing I learned from the nut house was everybody else was crazy. And everybody has a level of crazy.
Sounds like a big family.
Yeah.
Everyone's crazy. It's just a matter of what kind, what flavor, what face.
And it makes me ask who's watching the watchers.
Nobody. It's part of the pandemonium. It's part of that eye of the storm thing of everything swirling around all the time and it never settles ever.
Right.
It's like walking. It's not like walking on water. It's like it is like walking on water, but you're walking on quicksand.
Right.
But you still somehow survive it.
Mm-hmm.
It really does feel like survival some days of the week. And that's why they are far, far away, and they all grew up in a other place.
Right.
I wonder where one person is who's watching. But yes, in conclusion, the liberals are going to scream. The regular folks are going to be regular folks. And with enough good paying jobs out there, there will be enough men who can do right by their families, and women can actually help be the actual people raising the kids.
Do what's best for you and your family, and we're here to support you in whatever you do, because everybody's situation is different. I'm not here to paint everybody into a corner or say stay-at-home moms are the only option. I'm just saying, well, I wish we had more of them, but do what's best for you, and it's not going to be a quick fix process. It's going to be a trial and error type thing. So hang in there.
Yeah, nothing's perfect, but it's as perfect as crazy gets. And if you think it's crazy now, there's only one thing that beats crazy. crazier.
Absolutely.
You think
Still
it's bad now? Wait 10 minutes. It's like the weather.
Yep.
Rain can become frozen ice and hail.
It's just like the weather here in Texas. Don't like it? Wait around. It'll change.
I think New Hampshire had faster changing weather, to be honest. There was one spring day in March where it started out with freezing rain. By afternoon, it was 70 with a breeze and no clouds, with all snow in between.
I went to school one day on a pleasant day in 1987, and by that afternoon, we were tucking our heads in between our knees in the hallway with a book over our heads.
Was that for tornado?
Tornado. Yep.
That's different.
Mm-hmm.
Usually tornadoes give you half a clue that they're coming.
Oh, I know. We heard the sirens.
That's the reason I still keep those bike helmets in the garage.
Yep.
Don't care how dust covered they are. We still have bike helmets. We still have mattresses.
Mm-hmm.
We still have 2 bathrooms to pick from.
Right.
They don't have windows and are centrally located in the house.
Yep.
Okay, I think we're probably done chewing on this for a bit. If anyone has any comments and this is already recorded, leave them anyway. We check everything. We're infomaniacs. We live on the internet. I mean, I don't need a microchip inserted into me to already be half cyborg.
Too late for me, but okay.
Yeah, he's half cyborg too. So, have a good one, y'all. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and that's not saying much because there's much I won't do. So,
and from the Command Central Studios in Fort Worth, Texas, bye-bye, everybody.
bye, y'all.